They never saw it coming. The silence, the growth, the storm that was building behind your stillness. They laughed, loudly. They pointed, confidently. They denied you, completely. But here's the part they never prepared for. You didn't break. You didn't beg. You became. Now everything they feared is unfolding in front of their eyes. You are the proof, the prophecy, the echo of everything they swore would never exist. And the panic? It's not because they lost control. It's because the truth took center stage, and it's wearing your face. The lies they told are unraveling. The masks are slipping. And for the first time, they're being seen for what they really are. They didn't just underestimate you. They built their whole reality around your silence. And now that you've risen, that reality is burning. Stay right here. Because what you're about to hear will change how you see everything. The betrayal, the doubt, the rise, and the exact reason why they're spiraling in fear. While you step fully into your power, if your spirit feels this message, like, right now. Subscribe if you've always known you were different. And comment 99 to confirm that you are aligned with divine clarity. Because 99 is the number of endings that lead to rebirth. Ready? Let's reveal what they prayed would stay hidden. They won't admit it, but they saw it. Long before you did. Before you even knew what you carried, they felt it. Not with words, but with glances, with subtle shifts, with uneasy silence when you entered the room. They saw the spark, that undeniable something that made them uncomfortable. Not because you were loud, but because your presence whispered a truth they couldn't ignore. You were chosen, and that terrified them. Because when people see greatness rising in someone they underestimated, it threatens the lies they've built around their own limitations. So they moved fast, not to help you, but to stop you. They didn't say, "I see something in you." They said, "You're not ready. You're too much. You think you're special?" Yes, you are. And they knew it. The denial wasn't blindness. It was a tactic, a weapon forged in fear. They figured if they dismissed you early enough, you'd start to believe the rejection was reality, that your dream was fantasy, that your voice had no echo. But what they didn't realize is that some seeds grow best in silence. And while they mocked, you listened. While they pushed you down, you were learning how to rise. They didn't just try to silence you. They tried to erase the possibility of you, but you were never waiting for their permission. You were watching, observing, awakening. And here's the twist they never expected. Every attack they launched, every doubt they spoke, every room they locked you out of, became a blueprint for your evolution. They trained you, unintentionally. For everything they now fear you've become, you walk with clarity, you speak with fire, and you no longer shrink to fit their fragile comfort zones. Now they're scrambling, not just because you proved them wrong, but because you proved them right. You were the threat. You were the one. And everything they did to break you only built you stronger. So ask yourself, why did they react so strongly to someone they said would never matter? Because deep down, they believed in you before you ever believed in yourself. And now that belief has turned into panic, because the very person they tried to bury is the one standing over the ruins of every lie they told. But this is only the beginning. You're about to uncover the exact reasons they spun lies around your name, not out of confusion, but out of desperation. The truth is far darker and more revealing than you think. Stay with me. It's about to get even more real. They didn't just lie about you. They engineered a version of you that served their narrative. Not because they misunderstood who you were, but because they knew exactly who you could become. And that reality? It was too dangerous for the version of themselves they were trying to protect, so they crafted shadows, false stories, Half-truths whispered in rooms you were never invited into. They made sure to smile in public and sow seeds in private. Seeds of doubt, suspicion, mistrust. Oh, they're not really that talented. They're just lucky. Don't get too close. You'll see what they're really like. But none of it was about you. It was about the mirror. Because your growth, your light, exposed everything they refused to confront in themselves. So they twisted the narrative. Rewrote your intentions, turned your strength into stubbornness, your authenticity into arrogance, your silence into guilt. They weren't just lying to others. They were building a wall around their own insecurity. And to keep that wall standing, you had to be the villain. The sad truth is, some people would rather destroy your name than admit you're doing what they were too afraid to attempt. Your wins felt like reminders of their wasted time. Your confidence, a spotlight on their self-doubt. Your becoming, a mirror they couldn't look into. So they launched the only weapon they had left, manipulated perception. They knew the power of whispers. They understood how to bend reality, not by proof, but by repetition. If enough people said it, it had to be true, right? Wrong. Because here's what they never expected. You wouldn't fight back with fire. You let time be your witness. You let your work speak louder than their words. And while they were building lies, you were building legacy. But now, the cracks are showing. People are starting to ask questions. The stories don't align. The inconsistencies are becoming impossible to ignore. And worst of all for them, you didn't fall apart. You didn't lash out. You didn't play the game. You just kept moving. And that terrified them more than anything you could have said. Because nothing disrupts a lie like the presence of unshakable truth. And now, they're scrambling to maintain the illusion. The panic isn't about what you've done. It's about what people are finally beginning to see, that you were never the problem. You were just the threat they couldn't control. Let that sink in. They built a lie to shield themselves, not from you, but from the reality that you were rising with or without their approval. And here's the twist. The truth doesn't need to scream to be heard. It just needs one moment, one spark, one undeniable moment of clarity. And that moment? It's coming faster than they ever expected, because someone is about to expose what really happened. Not for revenge, but for redemption. Stay with me. In the next chapter, you'll see why your silence wasn't weakness. It was strategy, and it's about to pay off in ways they never saw coming. Are you ready? Let's go deeper. They mistook your silence for surrender. They thought because you weren't clapping back, because you weren't posting every move, because you didn't perform your progress for the crowd, you must have been losing. But what they never understood is, you weren't silent. You were strategic. You weren't inactive. You were focused, laser-focused, quietly building, silently sharpening, getting ready. Not for revenge, but for arrival. While they screamed for attention, you listened for direction. While they chased noise, you chased alignment. While they gathered spectators, you gathered strength. Because the wise don't waste energy proving what time will eventually reveal. You didn't need applause. You needed patience. You didn't need validation. You needed vision. And you had it, even when no one else did. Behind closed doors, you were transforming. Working in shadows, not because you were hiding, but because real change happens in the dark. Caterpillars don't announce when they're turning into butterflies. They disappear. And when they return, they don't explain. They just fly. That's exactly what you did. They laughed. But you were learning. They gossiped. But you were grinding. They moved in packs. But you walked alone. And that solitude became your sanctuary. Because while they were chasing followers, you were becoming a leader. That's why they don't recognize you now. You don't move the same. You don't react the same. You're not driven by noise anymore. You're guided by knowing. You didn't level up for attention. You leveled up for alignment, and now, the same people who couldn't stop talking are speechless. The same ones who said, "You've changed," are finally realizing you were never meant to stay the same. Your silence wasn't weakness. It was the loudest decision you could have made. Because what you didn't say, what you didn't explain, what you didn't justify, became power. They used their mouths. You used your mind. They played for the crowd. You played for the crown. And the crown doesn't come to the loudest. It comes to the one who's ready to wear it. Let that settle in. All this time, you weren't falling behind. You were falling into place. And now that the silence is over, now that your presence is undeniable, they're scrambling to adjust the narrative. Because the person they tried to mute is now the frequency everyone's tuned into. But don't get too comfortable, because what's coming next will expose just how deep the panic really goes. You've been rising in silence. Now we pull back the curtain. Next, we reveal what the world is finally starting to see and why the truth is louder than ever. Ready? Let's continue. For a long time, they controlled the narrative. They told their version. They painted their picture. And most people believed it, because it was the only story being told. But now, eyes are opening, minds are questioning, and the silence around you has become too loud to ignore. People are noticing the cracks, the inconsistencies, the strange energy that never made sense. Until now. Because when truth enters the room, lies don't disappear. They unravel. You're no longer hidden. You're no longer misunderstood. You're finally being seen for what you truly are, the one who never needed to explain, only to emerge. And your emergence? It's changing everything. You walk in differently now. People pause. They feel it before they understand it. Your energy speaks before your mouth does. Your presence shifts the air. Because when truth rises, it carries a frequency that can't be faked. This isn't about revenge. This is about revelation. About the moment when false stories fall apart under the weight of undeniable reality. They said you were too much. Now they call it power. They said you were fake. Now they call it unapologetic. They said you were lost. Now they ask you for direction. Funny how the same people who once questioned your value are now silent in the presence of your truth. Because the truth? It doesn't knock politely. It kicks the door open and shines a spotlight on every hidden corner. Your light did more than glow. It exposed every lie, every mask, every narrative built to keep you boxed in. They never expected your clarity. They never prepared for your confidence. They never imagined that one day you'd be the proof they can't explain away. And now, the world sees you. And they see them too, for who they really are. The whispers are turning into questions. The questions are turning into truth. And the truth is louder than ever. No more hiding. No more pretending. No more versions of you that exist just to make others comfortable. The spotlight has shifted. And it's not leaving. Not this time. Now that the illusion has shattered, all that's left is what's real, what's authentic, what's undeniable, and that's you. But don't think it ends here. The panic is just beginning. Because when truth takes the stage, power changes hands. And in the next moment, you'll see exactly why they're scrambling to rewrite the ending. But this time, you're the author. Stay close. It's almost time to turn the final page. You never had to scream. You never had to defend. You never had to beg anyone to see you. Because you always knew, truth doesn't rush. It arrives. In its own time, in its own power, with its own undeniable weight. And now, it's here. They tried to bury it. But truth doesn't die. It waits. They tried to twist it, But truth doesn't bend. It holds. They tried to erase it. But truth leaves traces. In your steps, in your strength, in your story. You didn't choose revenge. You chose resilience, and that choice was louder than anything they ever said. You never needed to ruin anyone. You just needed to rise. Because when you rise, every lie shrinks. They tried to write your ending, but you weren't finished. They wrote you off, but forgot you knew how to rewrite the script. And look at you now, standing in everything they said you'd never reach, becoming everything they said you could never be. Not in spite of the opposition, but because of it. Because pressure didn't crush you, it carved you. It shaped you. It prepared you. You didn't fight them with your voice. You fought with your vision. You didn't clap back. You stepped forward. And your presence, just your existence, became the loudest answer of all. Now they watch in silence. The same ones who doubted, who twisted, who warned others to stay away. Now walk on eggshells around your glow, not because you're dangerous, but because you're undeniable. You are living, breathing proof that no lie lasts forever. That character outlives gossip, that time protects the innocent, and that purpose always finds its way, even through the fire. You picked up the pen, and you wrote what they never could, a comeback that didn't need applause. Just truth. So let this be known. The real you, the you they tried to silence, hide, reduce, and erase, is here. Unapologetic, unshaken, unstoppable. And now that the truth is standing, every false version is falling. But we're not done. Yet. Because what comes next isn't just your moment. It's your movement. And the final message that changes everything. Stay with me. We're almost at the revelation they prayed would never come. Let's finish this. This was never just about clearing your name. This was about claiming your name. The one they tried to erase. The one they whispered about. The one they feared. Because deep down, they knew it held weight. And now, you're not rising quietly. You're rising completely, fully seen, fully backed by truth, and completely untouchable. Because this isn't just your redemption, it's a revolution. A revolution for everyone who ever stayed quiet while being misunderstood. For everyone who held their power while the world tried to shrink them. You didn't just survive. You outgrew the cage. You are the storm they never saw coming. Not because you were loud, but because you were real. And now the silence is over. The lies are finished. And your name, your truth, is echoing in places they never wanted to hear it. Walk